Wolf King patrolled the old ruins alone until he saw the girl sleeping among the stones. The wind whispered through the cracks in the walls, carrying with it echoes of a long-forgotten kingdom. The forest surrounding the ruins was quiet, except for the occasional howl of a distant wolf. In the heart of this silence, the Wolf King moved, his steps soundless despite his size. He had walked these ruins for centuries. Once this had been a proud castle, home to kings and queens, filled with laughter and music. Now only shadows remained. The Wolf King's eyes, sharp and glimmering with an unnatural light, scanned the crumbling walls and fallen statues. Each step he took was careful, as if the stones themselves remembered the touch of betrayal. His form was both human and something more. Muscles rippled under fur that covered parts of his body, and his eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. Some said he was a monster. Others whispered that he was a king cursed by a goddess for sins long past. He neither confirmed nor denied these stories. He did not need human approval. Loneliness was his companion and the ruins were his home. That night, however, the ruins seemed different. There was a strange warmth in the air, a presence that made the shadows tremble slightly. The Wolf King paused at the edge of a fallen archway. Something had changed. His senses, honed by years of solitude and vigilance, told him that he was not alone. Among the stones of a collapsed wall, near what had once been the castle's courtyard, lay a figure, a girl. She slept, her hair spread around her like a river of darkness, her face calm and pale in the moonlight. There was no fear in her sleep, only a quiet stillness that both intrigued and unnerved him. The Wolf King crouched on a nearby stone, observing her. He had seen many things over the centuries, hungry beasts, wandering thieves, spirits of the fallen, but never a mortal sleeping so freely in a place like this. It was as if the ruins themselves had chosen to protect her, or perhaps she had chosen them. A part of him, the part he had long buried beneath centuries of anger and guilt, felt a strange pull. He had not felt curiosity, or interest, or even longing for so long that the sensation startled him. His instincts told him to leave her be, to maintain the solitary watch he had kept for generations. Yet something held him, rooted like a tree in the cold ground of the courtyard. He stepped closer, each movement careful. The girl stirred slightly but did not wake. Her breathing was steady, almost as if she were part of the ruins themselves. The Wolf King reached out a hand, fur brushing against cold stone, and hesitated. Could a mortal truly belong here? Could someone so fragile survive in a place haunted by centuries of sorrow and darkness? As if answering his unspoken questions, the girl opened her eyes. They were wide, clear, and a shade of green he had never seen in all his years. She looked at him calmly, without fear. "You are not like the others," she said softly, her voice carrying over the wind like a melody. He inclined his head, silent for a long moment. His lips did not move, but the shadows around him shifted as if acknowledging her presence. "And you are far from home," he replied finally, his voice low, smooth, and dangerous. "Why are you here?" The girl sat up slowly, brushing her hair back from her face. She did not tremble even as she met his glowing eyes. "I came because I had to," she said. "I was drawn. I don't know why, but I think the ruins called me." The Wolf King studied her. She spoke with certainty, yet her words carried a mystery he could not ignore. Few mortals dared speak truth in places like this, and fewer still dared speak to him directly. He sensed courage in her, but also something else, something dangerous. "Call you?" he asked, tilting his head. The shadows shifted around him, restless as if they too were listening. The girl's gaze did not falter. "Yes," she said. "I think there is something I need to find here. Something hidden." The Wolf King's instincts roared at him to test her, to see if she was prey or threat. Yet every instinct that had kept him alive for centuries hesitated. He had long ago stopped caring about mortals, but this one, she was different. There was a quiet strength in her, a determination that reminded him of something he had once known, long before he became the guardian of ruins and shadows. He crouched low, muscles tensing. "The ruins are not kind to strangers," he said. "Few leave them untouched, many never leave at all." The girl's lips curved in a faint smile. "Then I will be careful," she replied, "but I must continue. I cannot turn back now." There was a moment of silence, heavy with tension. The Wolf King could feel the wind shift, carrying with it the faint scent of magic, an old, forgotten kind that lingered in the ruins. He had smelled it many times before, usually in the presence of spirits or creatures born of curses. But with her, it was different. Her presence seemed to awaken something in him, something long buried beneath centuries of anger, fear, and solitude. "Then you will need guidance," he said finally. His voice was not a question but a command tempered with choice. "Follow me and do not stray." The girl nodded, trusting him without hesitation. Trust was a rare thing in the Wolf King's world, and he felt the weight of it press upon him like a physical force. For the first time in centuries, he was not alone in the ruins. They moved together through the crumbling corridors, stones shifting under their feet. The ruins were alive in their own way. Walls whispered, shadows moved like living things, and distant echoes carried faint memories of laughter, screams, and sorrow. The Wolf King moved with ease, knowing every crack, every hollow, every hidden passage. The girl followed silently, her eyes wide with awe, yet unafraid. As they reached the heart of the ruins, a large courtyard broken by time, the wind picked up. Leaves and dust swirled in small eddies, and the shadows seemed to gather more densely around them. The girl stopped, sensing something the Wolf King had already known. They were not entirely alone. "Do you feel it?" she asked softly. He did not answer immediately. His sharp senses had detected movement, small but deliberate. Shadows shifted unnaturally along the edges of the walls, and a cold pressure pressed against the air. He could sense the remnants of curses, lingering spirits, and the echoes of betrayal that had doomed him to guard these ruins for centuries. "I feel it," he said finally. "Something watches us, something that knows you are here." The girl's hand brushed against the stone beside her. "I think it is part of the ruins, or part of me." He looked at her, puzzled by her calmness. Most mortals would have cowered or fled. She did neither. Her courage intrigued him. Perhaps more than that, it stirred something dangerous in his heart, something he had long thought dead. Suddenly, the ground trembled slightly beneath their feet. A faint rumble echoed through the ruins, and dust fell from the broken towers above. The Wolf King's ears twitched and his eyes glowed brighter. He stepped protectively in front of the girl, muscles tensed, senses alert. Then a shadow moved, shifting unnaturally across the stones. The girl looked up and her breath caught. The Wolf King growled low in his throat, a sound that rumbled like distant thunder. Whatever was in the ruins, it was aware of them, and it was not pleased. "Stay close," he ordered, his voice low and dangerous. "Do not move unless I tell you." The girl nodded, her green eyes meeting his. There was a flicker of something unspoken between them, understanding, trust, and perhaps the faintest spark of something more. But before either of them could speak further, a spectral whisper floated through the air, cold and haunting. "You are not hers to guard, nor she yours to protect." The Wolf King's fur bristled and his eyes narrowed. He turned, scanning the shadows, but nothing moved except for the faint shimmer of magic in the air. The girl gasped softly, clutching at his cloak. Her pulse was steady, yet the weight of the words seemed to settle over them like a shroud. The ruins had spoken, or something within them had. The Wolf King understood immediately that the girl's presence had awakened forces long dormant, forces that might not forgive her intrusion, or him for letting her remain. He took a step closer, shielding her with his large, powerful form. "Whatever comes," he said softly yet firmly, "we face it together." The girl nodded, her eyes fixed on the trembling shadows. I do not know what is happening," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "But I am not afraid." The Wolf King's heart, long dead to warmth or hope, felt a pull he could not name. He had guarded these ruins for centuries, alone and unyielding. Now, for the first time in all those years, he felt a presence that challenged his solitude, that made him want to protect something beyond duty or fear. Above them, the moon shone brighter, as if illuminating a new path among the ruins. The Wolf King's eyes glimmered with a mixture of curiosity, caution, and something else, something he had not felt in centuries. And deep in the shadows, unseen and ancient, a voice laughed softly, echoing across the ruins. The first step has been taken. The game begins, and the Wolf King will learn that even shadows cannot hide the heart forever. The Wolf King looked down at the girl sleeping among the stones just hours ago. Now awake, she seemed small and fragile, but in truth, she carried the weight of destiny itself. He did not yet understand how or why, but he knew one thing clearly. Nothing in the ruins would ever be the same again. The glow from the cracks in the stones faded slowly, leaving the Wolf King and the girl standing in an uneasy silence. The ruins seemed to breathe around them, stones shifting slightly, shadows curling like living tendrils. Whatever had awakened beneath the ruins had gone for now, but the warning lingered in the air, heavy and tense. The Wolf King's sharp eyes scanned the courtyard. "We should move," he said, his voice low, carrying the authority of centuries. "The ruins are restless, they do not forgive carelessness." The girl nodded, but her green eyes lingered on the faint shimmer in the stones. "There is something here," she said softly. "Something old, something powerful." He did not respond immediately. He had felt it too, the residue of a magic that predated kings and kingdoms, older than his own cursed existence. It was not merely the ruins themselves. It was as if the land remembered every betrayal, every sorrow, and every vow made upon its stones. "Then we will find it," he said at last. "But you must follow me. Stay close. Do not wander." She fell in step beside him, her small presence a strange comfort in the vast, empty ruin. The Wolf King led her through corridors lined with broken statues and collapsed archways, the moonlight streaming through holes in the walls. Every shadow seemed to twitch as if alive, every gust of wind carrying faint whispers from a past long forgotten. The girl glanced at him. "You know this place very well," she said, almost in wonder. He nodded slowly, eyes scanning every corner. "I have walked these ruins for centuries. I know every stone, every hollow. I know the secrets that even time has tried to bury." Her gaze softened, and for a moment the ruins faded from her mind. "Then, can you tell me why I was drawn here, why I felt compelled?" He hesitated, uneasy. "I do not know," he admitted, his voice unusually quiet. "But there are forces here older than you or me. Perhaps they chose you for a reason, perhaps for a test." The girl's eyes narrowed, slightly thoughtful. "A test or a prophecy?" He stopped abruptly, his gaze turning sharp. "A prophecy," she nodded. "I have read of one in old texts my family kept. It speaks of a cursed king, a mortal drawn to ruins, and a bond that can change the fate of both. I never thought it was real, until I felt myself pulled here." The Wolf King's fur bristled slightly. He had heard whispers of such things in the past, tales of gods, curses, and chosen mortals, but never had he imagined that it could involve him. The ruins had always been his prison, his duty, his burden. That a mortal might be tied to him by destiny was unsettling. He said nothing for a moment, watching her carefully. "If what you say is true," he murmured, "then the forces here may not want you alive." The prophecy is not mercy, it is challenge, danger, and reckoning. The girl took a deep breath but did not waver. "I understand," she said softly. "I am not afraid. I think I am meant to face it." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something inside him stirred. There was courage in her eyes, yes, but also something else, something he had not expected. A calm strength that challenged his solitude. In all the centuries he had guarded these ruins, he had never encountered a mortal like her. She was fragile, yes, But in ways he could not have anticipated, she was also extraordinary. The Wolf King gestured for her to follow, and together they descended into the lower corridors of the ruins. The air grew colder as they went, carrying a faint metallic tang, and the shadows became thicker, darker, more deliberate. Something ancient watched them, unseen but present. As they walked, the girl's curiosity grew. She touched the walls lightly, tracing the patterns etched into the stones long ago. "These symbols, they are magical," she whispered. "I can feel them." The Wolf King's eyes flickered with caution. "You feel the remnants of old spells. Do not touch them carelessly. Many are traps, many are protections, and some are warnings." She looked up at him, her face serious. "Do you trust me?" His gaze met hers, unwavering. "I have no choice," he said simply. "You are here, and whatever draws you cannot be ignored. But know this, if you make one mistake, the ruins will not forgive you. I cannot save you from everything, only guide you through what I can see." The girl nodded. For a moment, silence fell between them, heavy and comfortable. It was a rare thing for the Wolf King. For centuries he had walked alone, and now, walking beside him, was someone who seemed to understand the weight of the ruins without fear. They reached a chamber larger than any above, its walls lined with ancient murals that glimmered faintly in the moonlight. The images depicted a king, tall and noble, surrounded by shadows and crowned with both glory and sorrow. His eyes were painted as bright as emeralds, full of life yet touched by sadness. The Wolf King's breath caught. The murals, they were of him, or of the man he had been before the curse. The girl stepped closer, studying the images. "He looks like you," she said quietly. He said nothing. The murals reminded him of everything he had lost, his kingdom, his people, the life he had once known. He had never let anyone see this side of him, the memories, the grief, the endless loneliness. Yet here was a mortal, observing it without mockery, without fear, without judgment. "You carry sorrow," the girl said softly, "but it is not all yours to bear." He turned to her, eyes narrowing. "And you speak as if you understand." "I do," she said simply. "I feel it. The ruins, the magic, the curse, it touches you. But there is also hope, I can see it." Hope. The word felt strange on his tongue. Centuries of solitude had eroded every trace of it. Yet something in her words lingered like sunlight through storm clouds. He did not answer, merely nodded, and together they moved deeper into the chamber. The walls seemed to respond to her presence, glowing faintly where she walked. The Wolf King sensed a power in her, hidden, quiet, but undeniable. She was not an ordinary mortal. There was something in her bloodline, something connected to the old magic of the ruins. He had seen many things in his long existence, but she was different. Suddenly, the ground shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling and stones shifted underfoot. From the corner of his eye, the Wolf King saw shadows coiling unnaturally, moving with intent. He stepped in front of the girl, muscles tense, eyes glowing with dangerous light. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "Whatever this is, it is not friendly." The girl did not hesitate. She raised her hand slightly, and a faint glow emanated from her fingertips. I can help," she whispered. "I think I can." The Wolf King's heart, long thought dead to hope, to trust, to companionship, stirred. She was offering courage in the face of danger, even as shadows moved toward them with silent menace. The shadows coalesced into forms, dark and twisted, echoes of ancient curses. They lunged at them with speed that made the Wolf King growl, but the girl's glow flared brightly, repelling them with bursts of energy that seemed born of the ruins themselves. He watched her, all mingled with concern. She was young, mortal, yet she fought with a courage that defied reason. And in that moment, the Wolf King realized something dangerous. He was drawn to her, not just because of duty, but because of the unspoken bond forming between them. When the last shadow dissipated, the girl stood trembling but unharmed. The Wolf King's eyes softened slightly, a rare gesture for him. "You are stronger than you know," he said, almost a whisper. "But this is only the beginning." The ruins are alive and they will test you and me. She smiled faintly, her green eyes shining. I do not care. I am here for a reason, and I trust you to guide me. He nodded slowly. That word trust was heavier than any sword, more dangerous than any curse. He felt its weight pressing on him, pulling him closer to something he had not felt in centuries. The possibility of connection, of redemption, of hope. As they moved further into the ruins, the shadows seemed to retreat, but the air was thick with anticipation. The Wolf King sensed that the girl's presence had awakened forces beyond their understanding, forces that would challenge them both, and forces that would demand choices neither of them were prepared for. Then, from the deepest corner of the chamber, a faint light flickered and a voice echoed, soft but commanding, ancient and unyielding. You dare enter what was forbidden. You dare awaken what was sealed. The prophecy begins, and the reckoning will not wait. The girl froze, eyes wide. The Wolf King's body tensed. For the first time in centuries he felt fear, not for himself but for her. Yet beneath that fear, a spark of determination ignited. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The chamber fell into an uneasy silence as the glowing figure stepped forward. Its shape was ethereal, almost human, but impossible to fully see. The Wolf King's muscles tensed, his senses alert, as he stepped instinctively in front of the girl, shielding her from whatever force had emerged. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice low, carrying the weight of centuries. The girl nodded, her green eyes wide but unwavering. She had already faced shadows before and survived, but this felt different. This presence was older, stronger, and far more deliberate. The figure's voice was smooth and melodic, echoing across the chamber. "Wolf King," it said, each word heavy with ancient authority. "You have wandered too long in the ruins. You have broken the solitude I imposed, and you have drawn her here." The Wolf King's eyes narrowed. He recognized that voice. Not fully mortal, not fully spirit, it was the goddess who had cursed him centuries ago. Her wrath had bound him to these ruins, shaping his life into one of loneliness and vigilance. "I protect her because she belongs here no less than I do," he said, his tone firm, unwavering. The goddess laughed softly, a sound that made the shadows ripple like water. "You think to defy me, you think centuries of my punishment mean nothing, and this mortal she is not safe. Her presence here threatens more than you realize." The girl stepped slightly forward, despite the Wolf King's protective stance. "I am not afraid," she said softly. "I did not come here to be weak. If my presence threatens you or anyone, then I will face it." The goddess's gaze swept over her, glowing with a light that was both beautiful and terrifying. "You have courage, mortal," she said. "Perhaps too much. But courage alone does not protect you from destiny. The Wolf King's curse is old and its weight is heavy. If you stay, you will be tested and perhaps broken." The Wolf King's jaw tightened. "I have walked alone for centuries. I have faced the ruins themselves and every curse it harbored. I will not let you harm her." A sudden flicker of energy shot from the goddess, and the shadows around the chamber began to twist and writhe. They moved like living chains, seeking to entangle the two of them. The Wolf King growled low in his throat, his eyes glowing brighter. He stepped between the girl and the nearest shadow, claws extended, ready to fight. The girl raised her hands again, the faint glow surrounding her growing stronger. "I can help," she said. "The ruins, they respond to me, I feel it." The Wolf King's heart stirred. She was not just a mortal, she carried something within her, a power connected to the ancient magic of the ruins. He had suspected it, but now he saw it manifest. Together they faced the shadows, a mixture of strength and courage, human and beast, mortal and cursed king. The shadows hissed and twisted, attacking in waves. The girl's glow flared, pushing them back. The Wolf King moved with precision, striking and tearing through the forms with his claws, his strength enhanced by centuries of guarding the ruins. Despite their fearsome appearances, they could not withstand the combined force of her magic and his fury. Once the last shadow dissipated, the chamber fell silent again. The girl's chest rose and fell with exhaustion, but she stood firm. The Wolf King lowered his stance slightly, breathing heavily. He looked at her with something he had not felt in centuries: admiration, gratitude, and concern. "You are stronger than you know," he said softly. "But the goddess will not let this go so easily. She will test you both in ways we cannot yet imagine." The girl looked up at him, determination shining in her green eyes. "Then we will face it together." He nodded, the tension in his body easing slightly, though his senses remained alert. They moved deeper into the ruins, following a path that only the Wolf King knew, through corridors that twisted and bent unnaturally, as if the ruins themselves were alive and shifting. As they walked, the girl asked quietly, "Why were you cursed? What did you do to deserve this?" The Wolf King's eyes darkened. He had never spoken of it aloud. Centuries of solitude had taught him to bury the pain. But now, with her presence beside him, he found himself telling a part of his story, one he had kept hidden even from himself. "I was once a king," he said, his voice low, almost like a confession. "I ruled these lands with care until I made a mistake of the heart. I betrayed a goddess in an act of love, an act I thought justified, but she did not see it that way. She cursed me to guard these ruins for eternity, to walk alone, to remember my failure every day." The girl listened quietly, her hand brushing against the stone wall as if drawing strength from it. "And you have carried this alone for centuries," he nodded, gaze distant. "Alone except for the shadows, except for the echoes of the past. I have not known companionship or trust for longer than I can remember. That is why your presence is strange. It unsettles me. It awakens something I thought lost." The girl reached out, gently touching his arm. The Wolf King flinched slightly at first but did not pull away. "You are not alone anymore," she said softly. "Perhaps you do not have to be." For the first time in centuries, the Wolf King felt something akin to hope. The ruins, dangerous and alive, had brought them together, and perhaps together they could face what lay ahead. Suddenly, the path ahead opened into a vast chamber, far larger than any they had seen. The walls glowed with inscriptions, ancient and powerful, telling stories of kings, battles, curses, and redemption. At the center of the chamber floated a faint, shimmering orb of light. It pulsed gently, as if alive. This is the heart of the ruins," the Wolf King said, awe in his voice. "It is said that the heart contains both the memory and the power of all who have walked here. It is dangerous and sacred." The girl stepped closer, her glow intensifying. "I feel it," she whispered. "It calls to me as if it knows me." The Wolf King studied her, tension in his body. He had faced the ruins alone for centuries, but now, standing beside her, he felt the stirrings of something profound. The girl was not merely a mortal. She was connected to the magic of this place, in ways neither of them fully understood. Before they could move closer, the goddess's voice echoed through the chamber, stronger and colder than before. "You dare approach the heart," she said, her tone sharp and commanding. "You dare defy my judgment. Mortal and cursed king alike, you will pay for your audacity." The shadows shifted, rising from the floor and walls like dark smoke, moving with purpose. The Wolf King growled, his claws flexing, ready to defend the girl. "Stay behind me," he commanded, though the girl did not hesitate. She raised her hands, her glow flaring brightly. Together they faced the shadows, a united front against the goddess's wrath. The shadows attacked in waves, faster and stronger than before. But the girl's power grew with each strike, responding to the ruins themselves. The Wolf King moved with precision and strength, tearing through the shadows with his claws, guiding her when needed, and protecting her from the most dangerous attacks. As they fought, the Wolf King felt a connection forming between them, deeper than he had anticipated. The girl's courage, her resolve, and her innate understanding of the ruins. Magic created a bond that felt unbreakable. For the first time in centuries, he felt trust, and with trust came something more, something he had long thought impossible: companionship, understanding, and even a flicker of something like love. Finally, the last shadow dissipated, leaving the chamber silent once more. The girl was breathing heavily, but her eyes shone with determination. The Wolf King's gaze softened, admiration and concern mingling. "You are extraordinary," he said quietly. "But this is only the beginning. The goddess will test you both further. And the heart of the ruins, it is not yet revealed." The girl looked at him, her expression both serious and curious. "Then we will face it," she said softly, "together." The Wolf King nodded, sensing the truth in her words. Whatever trials lay ahead, they would confront them side by side. The ruins were alive, powerful, and dangerous, but together they had strength. And then, from the shadows of the chamber, a faint, glowing rune appeared on the floor. It pulsed with light, and a soft whisper filled the air. "The bond you forge tonight will decide the fate of the cursed king, and the mortal who dares to follow him." The girl's hand brushed against the Wolf King's arm, seeking reassurance. He did not pull away. For centuries he had walked alone, and now he understood the weight of trust, courage, and companionship. Above them, the ruins seemed to breathe, waiting, watching, and preparing the next challenge. The goddess's voice lingered in the air, a promise of trials yet to come. The chamber trembled as the floating orb pulsed, casting silver and gold light across the ancient walls. The shadows twisted violently, as if sensing the approaching confrontation. The goddess's voice echoed through the ruins, a mixture of anger and authority. "You dare step closer to the heart. You dare defy the past, the curse, and the rules I set. Mortal and cursed king, your time of reckoning is here." The Wolf King tightened his stance, fur bristling, eyes glowing brighter than ever. He did not move closer out of fear, but out of determination. For centuries he had guarded these ruins, bound by a curse, isolated and haunted. Now, at the side of the mortal girl, he felt a purpose he had not known in lifetimes. "We are here," he said, his voice low and firm, "and we will not leave until the truth is faced. No curse, no shadow, no goddess will control us anymore." The girl stepped beside him, her green eyes glowing faintly, reflecting the light of the orb. "We face it together," she said. Her hands rose, emitting the faint, steady glow that had protected them before. She had grown stronger with each challenge, learning to channel the energy of the ruins. The goddess's laughter echoed, cold and unyielding. "You think together you are strong. Mortal, cursed king, the past cannot be undone. The curse is eternal. And yet I sense a bond forming, one I did not foresee." The Wolf King's gaze hardened. The goddess underestimated them both. Her curse had shaped him, yes, but it had not broken him. And the girl, she was not merely a mortal. She carried the bloodline, the courage, and the connection necessary to challenge fate itself. The shadows surged forward again, massive forms that seemed almost alive, created from centuries of sorrow and betrayal. The Wolf King roared, his voice echoing across the chamber, a sound that was both fearsome and protective. He leapt forward, striking with precision, his claws tearing through the shadows while keeping the girl safe. She raised her hands, the glow around her brightening until it was a solid shield of light. The shadows hissed and recoiled, unable to pass through her protective aura. Together, they formed a balance of force, strength and magic, fury and courage, human and cursed king. The goddess's voice rang out once more. "You can fight the shadows, but can you face the truth? Can you confront the sins that bound you, Wolf King?" The Wolf King froze. The sins of his past, the betrayal, the broken vows, the choices that led to his curse, rushed into his mind, heavier than the shadows around him. He had carried them alone for centuries, each memory a chain. He had faced creatures, spirits, and magic, but never himself. The girl stepped closer, her glow steady, her voice gentle but firm. "You are not alone anymore," she said. "I am here, and I will not leave. Whatever you face, we face it together." For the first time, the Wolf King allowed himself to feel the weight of trust. The burden of the curse pressed down on him, but the girl's presence gave him courage. The shadows of the past could not reach him when he was no longer alone. He stepped toward the heart of the ruins, toward the glowing orb, and for the first time he spoke the words he had kept buried for centuries. I accept my past. I accept my mistakes. I accept the curse I was given, but I will not let it define me any longer. The goddess's laughter faltered, replaced by silence. The shadows began to waver, confused and hesitant. The Wolf King's declaration, combined with the girl's unwavering presence, created a force the ruins themselves responded to. The girl stepped forward, placing her hands on the orb. The light pulsed in response, brighter, warmer, as if recognizing their combined will. The goddess's voice, now softer, rang in their minds. Perhaps love and courage can change what was thought eternal. But know this, redemption is not without cost. The shadows twisted one last time, but instead of attacking, they dissolved into silver light that ascended toward the ceiling, leaving the chamber clear. The Wolf King felt the centuries of weight lift slightly, as though the curse itself was loosening its hold. He looked at the girl. Her hands were glowing, but her eyes met his with calm reassurance. "It is done for now," she said softly. "The ruins have accepted us." He stepped closer, lowering his stance, his glowing eyes softening. "I have walked alone for centuries," he said quietly, "but now I understand what it means to trust, to hope, to feel something beyond pain and duty." The girl reached out, brushing her hand against his arm. The Wolf King flinched slightly at first but did not pull away. The centuries of solitude had made touch unfamiliar, but now it was a comfort, a connection he had long thought impossible. The chamber itself seemed to shift in response, stones settling into their original places, faintly glowing inscriptions softening into calm light. The ruins, once harsh and unforgiving, now felt alive in a way that was protective rather than threatening. The Wolf King and the girl moved toward the orb together. It pulsed gently, a heartbeat that matched their own. The past had been confronted, the curse partially lifted, and a bond had been formed that neither could deny. "I never thought I would feel hope again," the Wolf King said, his voice low but steady. "You will," the girl replied, "because you are not alone, and because you have learned that courage and love can shape even the darkest destiny." A warm breeze swept through the chamber, carrying away the last remnants of shadows. The moonlight poured through the broken walls, illuminating the Wolf King in a glow that was both beastly and human. For the first time he felt whole, not just a guardian of ruins and curse, but a man capable of change, capable of feeling. He turned to the girl who was smiling faintly, her glow fading to a soft shimmer. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for staying, for trusting me." "For believing in me," she smiled back. "We did it together. You did not walk alone this time, and perhaps the prophecy was not just about you. Perhaps it was about both of us." The Wolf King nodded, feeling the truth in her words. The ruins, the curse, the goddess, they had tested him, yes. But in facing them with her, he had discovered something more valuable than any power or title: trust, companionship, and the possibility of redemption. As they stepped toward the entrance of the ruins, the moon rose high, bathing the broken towers and twisted stones in silver light. The night was still, peaceful, and yet full of unspoken promise. The ruins had accepted them, and a path forward had opened, a path neither of them had expected, yet one they would walk together. The girl glanced at him, green eyes soft with understanding. "The prophecy, it may not be finished," she whispered. The Wolf King's lips curved in a rare smile. "Then we will face whatever comes next, together." Above them, the ruins seemed to hum faintly, a song of past sorrows, courage, and new beginnings. The shadows had been banished, the goddess's test survived, and yet the future remained uncertain. But for the first time in centuries, the Wolf King did not feel fear. He had a companion, a mortal who had faced darkness without flinching, and together they could face whatever lay ahead. He looked down at her, and for a long moment they stood in silence, the ruins around them still, protective, and alive. Then the girl stepped closer, her hand brushing his, and the Wolf King allowed himself to feel what he had long denied, the possibility of hope, connection, and perhaps even love. The moon shone brighter, full and clear, as if blessing the bond they had forged. The ruins, once harsh and merciless, now felt alive with quiet approval. Centuries of solitude and sorrow were finally giving way to a new beginning, a chance to walk forward together, into the unknown, with courage, trust, and the promise of redemption. And so the Wolf King and the girl left the chamber, their steps echoing softly on the ancient stones. The past remained as it always would, but it no longer controlled them. The curse had been challenged, the shadows faced, and a bond stronger than magic had been forged. Whatever awaited them beyond the ruins, they would face it together. The moon rose high, casting a silver glow over the broken towers, the stones, and the two figures who had dared to defy fate. And as the night whispered its eternal song, one truth remained clear. Even in darkness, hope could bloom, courage could shine, and hearts could find each other against all odds.